Sex. It's a pretty simple act that stirs up some pretty complicated feelings. In this video, we're going to talk about why self-awareness is a key ingredient to creating sexual experiences that feel good, body, heart, and soul. The first thing I want to say is that when I use the term sex, I mean a big umbrella of all kinds of sexual acts and sexual experiences. So think of it as a big, broad term. Second thing is that there's a difference between self-awareness and self-consciousness. So self-consciousness is something that does not help us create really rewarding and enriching sexual experiences. Self-consciousness, in fact, takes us out of enjoying the moment and leads us to do something that Masters and Johnson, the original sex therapist, called spectatoring, sort of watching ourselves almost like in the third person. And in fact, self-awareness is the antidote to self-consciousness or to spectatoring when you're in a sexual experience. So self-awareness is a big concept that I wrote an entire book about. The Loving Bravely book is all about that. And when we bring the idea of self-awareness into our sexuality, thinking about who we are as sexual people, that's a pretty complicated idea as well. And I'm writing an entire new book about that idea. But briefly, what self-aware sex is that you're making an ongoing commitment to staying connected to yourself before, during, and after a sexual experience. So really wonderful sexual experiences happen when we can be both grounded in ourselves and connected to the person that we're being sexual with. So let's talk about this as a before, during, and after kind of a thing. So the before, the way that we would be practicing self-awareness before we even enter a sexual space, is by just being really tuned in to what are the cues inside of my body that are making me curious about, leaning towards, interested in, and ready for a sexual experience. So just really staying connected to what Dr. Emily Nagoski calls the accelerators and the brakes. What are the things that help you kind of cultivate sexual desire in yourself and lead you more curiously and excitedly and openly into a sexual space? And what are your sexual brakes? Those cues from within that let you know that it's not a good time, it's not a great partner. So that's the before, knowing where your boundaries are and what's motivating you. So self-awareness is that conversation you're having with yourself before. And then the during, self-aware sex looks like this. It's this interesting mix of presence and surrender, right? So being able to know that you've kind of readied yourself to enter the experience so that when you're in the experience of being sexual with somebody, you can just practice mindfulness, which is this beautiful letting go of judgment, letting go of worry, letting go of self-consciousness so that you can savor all of the physical and emotional pleasures of that moment. And research has found, especially research by Dr. Lori Brado up in Vancouver, Canada, has found that the degree to which we can practice mindfulness is the degree to which we can enjoy sexual pleasure. So what's happening in our minds shapes what's happening in our bodies as well. So that's what self-awareness looks like in the during. And then in terms of the after, what self-awareness looks like is just checking in with yourself, noticing how you feel after the fact. And without judgment, without self-criticism, noticing if you are feeling self-critical and meeting your criticism with some compassion and using the thoughts and feelings you have afterwards to guide you going forward. So everything that happens inside of us is data. And so in terms of the after, self-awareness is about using the data of your experience to guide what you might want and need going forward. So there you have it, Brave Love Warrior. Self-aware sex is about being grounded and connected at the very same time. If you want to find out how relationally self-aware you are, go to dralexandrasolomon.com and take the Loving Bravely quiz.